Hello! Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Frankenstein, the classic Gothic novel. Most people have heard of it, a lot of people have read it, but I wanted to give kind of my thoughts on it, because I have a lot of thoughts on it, and so I started reading it in the summer, and I read most of it, and then I kind of got busy and sidetracked and didn't read anything else until yesterday when I finished it, so I've been having a weird reading schedule lately, but just to give kind of an overview of the book for anyone who has not heard of it or doesn't know what it's about, because I actually didn't really know much about the story of Frankenstein before I read it. I only really knew that Frankenstein created this monster, and then I just knew of, you know, the stereotypical Halloween Frankenstein where it's the big green guy with the bolts on his head, which isn't really depicted that way in this book. But anyway, Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. Frankenstein is actually the name of the main character in the book, who is a scientist. And so his name is Victor Frankenstein. He is really interested in creating life out of something that's not living, or putting life into something that is not living. So he is really passionate and works really hard on this experiment to create a being out of non-living material. And this being ends up being his monster. But when he finishes this being, he realizes that it's definitely not what he expected, and he is horrified, disgusted at the sight of this huge, monstrous creation that he has made, and he leaves, and the monster ends up escaping. So the rest of the story follows Frankenstein and his point of view, and then there's a good chunk of the story that also is from the point of view of the monster, which I think is very interesting, and I like the way that the different perspectives are shown in this book. The book itself is full of many Gothic themes, some horror themes. It's very dark, it's tragic, and it's very science fiction-y as well, which I love all of those elements combined. Those are some of my favorite elements in a story, and I think that this is a wonderful example of a Gothic book, which is probably why it's a classic. And I like how not everything is, you know, sunshine and daisies. It depicts something that could actually happen if science were advanced in a certain way, and that's what I think is actually really interesting and horrifying at the same time, which to me that's just such an intriguing thing. To know that this isn't just, you know, a vampire novel where vampires just randomly exist in the world. There's no real scientific reason that they exist, but in this book there's an actual, you know, this has to do with the scientist and his creation, and he has to deal with the consequences of that, and the monster has to deal with the consequences of his life and how people perceive him, and I just think it's great. I loved this book. I really wish I would have read it much earlier than I had, but I will be looking for Frankenstein films. I think that this book was really psychological, and it was really, you got into the minds of the characters, which is, you know, one of my favorite things to read about. And yeah, I would recommend it. I really would recommend it, and I definitely need to read more books like this. But if you haven't read it, you definitely should, if you were looking for Gothic fiction type books, because it's really good. And although it was from about it was written about 200 years ago, not 2000. It was actually very easy to read. It wasn't like, you know, casual reading, but it was very interesting, even though it was detailed and written in a way that they wrote in the 1800s. It was still very easy for me to get through, and it was kept me interested throughout the whole book. So yeah, and I don't know if that's just, you know, how it was when I was reading it, what, you know, the time when I was reading it, I just could concentrate better, but I've read other books that were from around this time period, and this was a lot easier to get through for me than some other ones. So I don't know why that is, but I think that's a good thing. So anyway, I would give this book probably 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was very, very good. I would probably reread it again. So those were kind of my thoughts on Frankenstein. In the comments, let me know if you have read it, or if you're interested in reading about it, what you thought of my review, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!